In the sprawling metropolis of New Avalon, a city celebrated for its harmonious blend of human and extraterrestrial cultures, lived a young woman named Serafina. As a cultural liaison at the Intergalactic Embassy, Serafina's days were filled with facilitating communications between species, organizing events, and ensuring that the diverse inhabitants of the city coexisted peacefully. Her fascination with the cosmos had led her to this career, but she never imagined how profoundly the universe would intertwine with her destiny. One crisp autumn morning, the embassy buzzed with anticipation. A delegation from the distant planet Virelia was arriving to discuss trade agreements and cultural exchanges. The Virelians were renowned for their ethereal beauty and advanced technology, making their visits both significant and rare. Serafina stood at the entrance of the embassy, her chestnut hair catching the sunlight, as the Virelian ship descended gracefully onto the landing pad. The vessel shimmered with iridescent hues, reflecting the technological prowess of its creators. As the hatch opened, a group of Virelians emerged, their movements fluid and graceful. Among them was a young diplomat named Orion. Orion was unlike anyone Serafina had ever encountered. His silver-blue skin seemed to glow softly, and his eyes, a deep shade of violet, held a depth that spoke of galaxies and stars. His presence was both commanding and serene, exuding an aura that drew attention effortlessly. As protocol dictated, Serafina stepped forward to greet the delegation. Extending her hand, she introduced herself. "Welcome to New Avalon. I'm Serafina, the cultural liaison for the Intergalactic Embassy." Orion reached out to accept her handshake. The moment their hands touched, a sudden warmth spread through Serafina's palm, and a soft, luminescent glow emanated from Orion's wrist. Both withdrew their hands abruptly, eyes wide with surprise. "What was that?" Serafina asked, her voice tinged with astonishment. Orion examined his wrist, where an intricate symbol now glowed faintly. It's a soulmate mark," he replied, disbelief evident in his tone. "Among my people, when we come into contact with our destined partner, this mark appears." Serafina's mind raced. Soulmates? Destined partners? Such concepts were the stuff of fairy tales and ancient myths. Yet, here it was, glowing softly on an alien's wrist because of her touch. The delegation proceeded inside, but the incident lingered in Serafina's thoughts. Throughout the meetings and discussions, she found her gaze drifting toward Orion, curiosity and confusion intertwining within her. In the days that followed, Serafina and Orion found themselves drawn to each other, seeking to understand the implications of the soulmate mark. They spent hours delving into Virelian traditions and Earth legends, searching for answers to the phenomenon they had experienced. Their conversations ranged from cultural practices to personal histories, revealing a compatibility that went beyond the superficial. Serafina learned that Virelians valued harmony and connection, believing that the universe wove intricate tapestries of fate. Orion discovered humanity's resilience and capacity for love, traits that resonated deeply with him. One evening, as they strolled through the city's intergalactic park, Orion turned to Serafina, his violet eyes reflecting the ambient glow of the bioluminescent flora. "Serafina," he began, his voice steady, "I know this is unprecedented. Our worlds have different customs, beliefs, and expectations. But I believe our meeting wasn't by chance. I want to explore this bond, wherever it may lead." Serafina looked into his eyes, seeing sincerity and hope. "I feel the same, Orion. Let's navigate this journey together." Their relationship became a symbol of unity and understanding, challenging societal norms and bridging the gap between two civilizations. Through love, they showcased the potential for harmony in a diverse universe. In the weeks that followed, Serafina and Orion's bond grew stronger. What had started as a chance encounter had blossomed into something neither of them could deny. The soulmate mark that had glowed when they touched seemed to pulse with every moment they spent together, and the more they learned about each other's worlds, the deeper their connection became. Serafina found herself drawn into the enigmatic nature of Orion's home planet, Virelia. His stories of a world where beauty and technology coexisted in perfect harmony fascinated her. The Virelians were a peaceful people, known for their connection to nature and their advanced understanding of the cosmos. They had mastered the art of harnessing energy from the stars themselves, and their cities were built into the very landscape, blending seamlessly with the environment. Virelia, with its shimmering lakes and bioluminescent forests, seemed like a dream, a world so different from the bustling metropolis of New Avalon. One evening, as they shared a quiet moment in one of the park's tranquil corners, Seraphina asked, "Orion, what does the soulmate mark really mean on your world? I can't help but wonder, does it mean we are bound in some way? That our fates are tied together?" Orion turned to face her, his violet eyes reflecting the soft glow of the bioluminescent plants surrounding them. He took a deep breath, as if gathering his thoughts. On Virelia, soulmates are seen as more than just romantic partners. They are two beings whose lives are destined to intertwine. The mark is a symbol of that connection, and it doesn't just represent love. It represents purpose. When two soulmates meet, they become stronger together, as if the universe itself has brought them into alignment. Seraphina let out a soft breath, processing the weight of his words. She had always believed in the power of love, but had never imagined that it could be so grand, so tied to the very fabric of existence. The idea that her fate had somehow been written long before she even met Orion was overwhelming. Yet, despite her doubts and confusion, she felt an undeniable pull towards him, one that resonated deep within her. Days turned into weeks, and their bond only deepened. They spent more time together, exploring the city, discussing philosophy, science, and the complexities of their respective cultures. The challenges they faced weren't just physical. They were emotional and intellectual, as they tried to navigate the complexities of their connection. There were moments of tension, particularly when they encountered the prejudices and fears of others, but each obstacle they faced only brought them closer. Seraphina had never expected her life to take such a dramatic turn. She had always considered herself to be grounded in reality, focused on her work and her role as a cultural liaison. But Orion had shown her a world beyond what she had ever imagined, a world where love could transcend boundaries, species, cultures, and even the stars themselves. Despite the growing tension within both the human and Virelian communities, Seraphina remained determined to explore this connection. But the challenges were not easy to ignore. There were whispers among her colleagues, and some of the Virelians were openly skeptical of the idea of an Earthling and a Virelian being soulmates. The doubts weren't just about the feasibility of their bond, but about whether it was natural for a human to form such a profound connection with an alien species. During a diplomatic meeting at the embassy, one of the senior Virelian officials, a stoic individual named Reiner, raised an objection. "While I have great respect for the cultural exchange between our species, I must ask, what does it truly mean when a Virelian soulmate binds with a human? Humans are unpredictable. Their emotional and physical responses are often erratic. Can we trust that this connection, this soulmate bond, is stable?" Seraphina's heart tightened at the challenge. Reiner's words cut deep, especially considering how much she had come to care for Orion. She looked across the room to see Orion's face, his features calm yet tinged with concern. He met her gaze, and in that silent moment, she knew they would face whatever came together. "I believe in this bond," Seraphina said, her voice steady despite the nerves twisting in her stomach. "And I believe in Orion. Our connection is real, and it transcends the fears of those who might not understand it." There was a heavy silence in the room as the Virelian delegation exchanged glances. Reiner did not speak again, but Seraphina could feel the weight of his doubt hanging in the air. It was clear that not everyone shared her conviction. As the days passed, Seraphina found herself questioning not just her relationship with Orion, but the very foundations of the prejudices that separated their worlds. It became increasingly clear that their union was not just a personal journey, but one that had the potential to change how both species viewed each other. Despite the challenges, there were moments of undeniable beauty. Late one night, as they walked through the city's holographic gardens, Orion took her hand. The air around them shimmered with soft light, and the distant hum of the city seemed to fade into the background. It was just the two of them, walking in silence, knowing that words were no longer necessary. "I never thought I would find this," Orion said softly. "You, a human. I never imagined that the universe would guide me to someone so far from my own people." Seraphina squeezed his hand gently, her heart swelling with emotions she didn't quite know how to express. "Neither did I, but I'm glad it happened. I'm glad it's you." Their connection, once mysterious and undefined, had begun to take shape. They were no longer just two individuals caught in an improbable bond. They were partners, allies, and perhaps something more. A symbol of a future where the universe's boundaries were not barriers but invitations to explore new possibilities. Still, Seraphina knew that their journey was far from easy. The challenges ahead were significant, but she also knew that the power of their connection was something that no one could deny, no matter how many doubts or obstacles stood in their way. And so, with the soulmate mark glowing softly on her wrist whenever she touched Orion, Seraphina decided that the path ahead, though uncertain, would be one she would walk with him by her side. They had much to learn from each other and the universe, but together, they would face whatever came, knowing that their bond was as powerful as the stars themselves. The days following the embassy's diplomatic meeting felt both charged and strained. Seraphina found herself constantly oscillating between her growing affection for Orion and the mounting pressure from both Virelian and human factions that felt uneasy about their union. Each time they were together, it was as if their connection deepened, yet the outside world seemed determined to place obstacles in their path. The human world, though diverse and open-minded in many ways, was not without its reservations. Some viewed the union as a challenge to established norms, even to the very concept of what it meant to be human. The idea of mixing species, particularly with beings as fundamentally different as the Virelians, had stirred discomfort in many. Conversations between Seraphina and her colleagues had grown more tense, and even the support she had initially received had started to waver. But for Seraphina, the truth was undeniable. There was something about Orion that resonated deep within her, a connection that was impossible to ignore. She knew that whatever came next, she couldn't turn away from him. Despite the doubts swirling around them, she had already crossed a point of no return. Her heart, her soul were tethered to him in ways that transcended logic or reason. Orion, too, felt the weight of their circumstances. Virelia, though advanced and progressive in many aspects, was a world bound by tradition. Soulmate connections were revered, but they were also expected to follow certain paths, and the idea of a union between a Virelian and a human had never been tested before. His family, once open to the idea of cultural exchange, had become more distant, their opinions clouded by a mixture of fear and skepticism. Despite this, Orion remained unwavering in his belief that their connection was not just personal, it was cosmic. Something greater had brought them together, and though he could not yet articulate the full significance of their bond, he knew it was something destined to shift the fabric of the universe itself. One day, when the pressure from both sides seemed particularly heavy, Seraphina found herself seeking solace in the quietest corner of New Avalon. The park was serene, as always, with its holographic gardens and the soft hum of bioluminescent flowers glowing in the twilight. It was a peaceful oasis, one where she could clear her thoughts and regain some sense of calm. Orion joined her there, his presence as comforting as it was electrifying. He stood by her side for a long moment before speaking, his voice gentle, as though testing the waters of her mind. "Seraphina, I know this isn't easy. I see the weight on your shoulders, the doubt creeping into your eyes. But I need you to understand this connection, this bond we share, it isn't just about us. It's about something larger, something that could reshape how both our worlds view each other." Seraphina turned to him, her eyes filled with the complexity of the emotions she had been carrying. "I don't know if I'm strong enough to handle it all, Orion. I want to believe in us. I want to believe that this is real, that we're real. But the world doesn't make it easy. Every day feels like we're fighting against forces we can't control." Orion reached out and gently placed his hand over hers, his touch warm and grounding. "I feel it too. The resistance, the doubts, the fear of the unknown. But I also feel something else, the bond we share. It's like the universe itself is guiding us. And no matter how difficult this journey is, no matter how many people try to pull us apart, I believe we can make it. Together. His words, simple yet profound, struck a chord deep within her. Serafina looked down at their joined hands, and for the first time in days, she allowed herself to believe, truly believe, that what they had was not just a fleeting moment. It was something enduring, something that could stand the test of time and circumstance. The two of them continued their walks through New Avalon, but now there was a renewed sense of purpose in their steps. They both knew that their journey was far from over, and the road ahead would be filled with challenges. But those challenges, rather than pushing them apart, seemed to only strengthen their bond. They had learned that love, true love, was not about being free from obstacles, but about facing them together, side by side, without fear. Weeks passed, and with each passing day, the stakes grew higher. The Virelian Council summoned Orion to discuss the implications of his relationship with Serafina. It was not an official hearing, but it was clear that their union was being treated as a matter of importance. Serafina had never attended a Virelian Council meeting before, and she knew that this would be a pivotal moment in their journey. As they sat together in the grand hall of Virelia's central government, Serafina couldn't help but feel the weight of history pressing down on her. She was the first human to be involved in such a discussion, and the tension in the air was palpable. The council members, stoic and unreadable, sat across from them, their faces a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Orion, as always, remained calm, his expression one of quiet determination. The head of the council, a distinguished elder named Reiner, spoke first. His voice was commanding, and his gaze bore into Serafina like a force of nature. Orion, your bond with this human is unprecedented. It has caused much concern among our people. The Virelians are a species rooted in tradition, and the idea of a soulmate connection with a human is unfamiliar, to say the least. Serafina felt her heart race as Reiner's words sunk in. There was no warmth in his tone, only a cold assessment of their relationship. She had expected this, the skepticism, the doubt, but it didn't make it any easier to bear. Orion, however, remained composed. This connection is real. It is not based on superficial attraction or political gain. It is something deeper, something that neither Serafina nor I can deny. Reiner raised an eyebrow, his voice growing sharper. And what of the future, Orion? What of the challenges that will come from this union? The mixing of our species is not something that can be easily overlooked. Our people have never faced such a situation, and neither have yours. Orion stood tall, his confidence unwavering. I understand the challenges, but I also believe that we are in the midst of a great change. This bond, this union, could be the beginning of something new. It could bridge our worlds in a way that no diplomacy or treaty ever could. Serafina held her breath as Reiner considered Orion's words. The room was heavy with silence, and she could feel the weight of the council's judgment upon them. After what seemed like an eternity, Reiner spoke again, his tone softer but still laced with caution. We will allow time for reflection, Reiner said, his gaze shifting between Serafina and Orion. But understand this union will be scrutinized by every faction on Virelia. You may not have the support you expect. Serafina's heart clenched, but she refused to let the doubt consume her. She knew what was at stake. They both did. But as Orion squeezed her hand, his touch a silent promise, she felt a surge of hope. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. The path was uncertain, but their bond was stronger than any force that sought to tear them apart. As they left the council chambers, Serafina turned to Orion, her voice steady. Whatever happens, I'm with you. He smiled, his violet eyes gleaming with an unwavering determination. And I'm with you, Serafina, always. Their journey was far from over, but in that moment, surrounded by doubt and uncertainty, they knew one thing for sure. They would face the future together. The days following the council meeting were some of the most trying Serafina and Orion had ever faced. The Virelian Council's decision to grant them time for reflection felt like a waiting period for judgment. But, rather than pulling them apart, The uncertainty seemed to strengthen their resolve. The stakes had been set. If they were to be together, they would have to prove that their bond was not just a fleeting moment, but a connection that could withstand the complexities of both their worlds. Serafina could feel the weight of the world bearing down on her shoulders. Everywhere she went, there were whispers. Friends, colleagues, even strangers seemed to study her with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. But through it all, there was one constant: Orion. His presence grounded her, and his unwavering belief in their bond gave her the strength to face each challenge head-on. It wasn't long before they realized that they could no longer just exist in the shadows of doubt. They had to make their connection known to the world, not for the sake of others' approval, but to affirm it for themselves. Together, they could not only navigate the tensions between their species, but also reshape the narrative of what it meant to love beyond boundaries. One evening, as the sun set behind the tall glass spires of New Avalon, casting a golden hue over the city, Serafina and Orion found themselves in one of their favorite spots, an observation deck high above the city. The bustling sounds of New Avalon below them were muted by the thick glass, and the sky was dotted with the brilliant glow of distant stars. For a moment, it felt as though the entire universe had slowed down, giving them a moment of peace. "I used to come here alone," Serafina confessed, her gaze fixed on the horizon. Before all of this, I would come up here and look at the stars, thinking about how vast everything is. It felt lonely." Orion stood beside her, his gaze distant as well, but his presence comforting. "I used to do the same on Virelia. We have many quiet places on my world, but none of them felt as serene as this. Until I met you." Serafina turned to him, her heart swelling with emotions that were hard to put into words. She reached out, placing her hand gently over his. "I know this hasn't been easy for either of us. But Orion, I can't imagine my life without you. We've faced so much doubt, so many challenges. But I believe in us. I believe in this." He looked at her then, his violet eyes reflecting the stars. "I've always believed in fate, in the idea that some things are written in the stars. But when I met you, I realized that it's not just about destiny. It's about choice. Every moment we've had, every decision to stand by each other, that's what matters." Serafina smiled, a sense of peace settling over her. "Then let's choose each other, no matter what the world says." For a long moment, they simply stood there, hands intertwined, the quiet hum of the city beneath them. The universe, it seemed, had conspired to bring them together, but it was their choices that would determine their future. It was a future they would face together, unafraid of the challenges that lay ahead. The following weeks brought a series of decisions that would change the course of their lives forever. They knew they couldn't hide any longer. They had to step into the light, not just for themselves but for the people who might one day look to their union as a symbol of something greater. Together, they would challenge the norms and prejudices of both their worlds, showing that love was not bound by species, not limited by distance, and not defined by the boundaries others sought to place upon them. Serafina and Orion made the decision to announce their relationship publicly, something that would have been unimaginable just months before. They addressed the media, the diplomats, and the citizens of both Earth and Virelia, speaking with one voice about the strength of their bond and the promise it held for the future. It wasn't an easy decision, and there was backlash. There were those who could not understand, those who feared the unknown. But there were also those who saw the beauty in what they had, who understood that love could be the catalyst for change. The months that followed were filled with both triumphs and setbacks. There were protests, some even violent, as factions from both human and Virelian sides tried to dismantle their relationship. But with every trial, Serafina and Orion grew stronger. Their connection, once viewed as an anomaly, began to inspire others, both humans and Virelians, who had always believed that love could transcend the limitations imposed by society. Slowly, the walls of resistance began to crumble. Serafina and Orion became symbols of a new era, one where differences were not something to fear, but something to celebrate. People from all walks of life, from different species and cultures, started to see that their love was not just about romance. It was about unity. It was about the idea that, despite their differences, all beings could find common ground in love and understanding. 1 year later, as the first anniversary of their union approached, Seraphina stood once again on the observation deck with Orion, gazing out at the stars. This time, there was no hesitation, no doubt in her heart. They had come so far together. They had faced down their own fears, the fears of others, and had built something beautiful in the process. 1 year, Seraphina said softly, a smile playing on her lips. 1 year, and everything has changed. Orion smiled back, his eyes filled with the same certainty. And it's only just beginning. They stood there, side by side, hands intertwined, as the city of New Avalon stretched out beneath them. They knew the road ahead would not always be easy, that there would always be those who sought to tear them apart. But they also knew that their bond was stronger than any obstacle. It was a bond that was written not just in the stars, but in the choices they had made and the love they had nurtured. Together, they would face the future. Together, they would show the universe that love had the power to transcend boundaries, to defy expectations, and to unite worlds.